Hey there, welcome back to another video. This time around, it is my review of the 2004 coming-of-age teen comedy, The Girl Next Door. Now, this is a film that, in all honesty, I didn't know that much about, other than added it to my collection one day because I read the synopsis on the back, and I thought it looked like it could be fun, and the price was right, so I decided to grab it from my local Goodwill. Because I don't remember seeing any trailers for this when it came out in 2004. I don't remember anybody in my personal circle talking about this movie. And because of that, I went into seeing this film with really low expectations. And this film cleared the low expectations and then some. I thought this was great. I really enjoyed this movie. Now, before I get around to sharing more of my thoughts on the film, I would like to give a special shout out to Andrew for requesting this review. And if there is another film, TV show, or topic that you would like to see me discuss in the future, feel free to donate to either my PayPal or to my Patreon. Link to both is in the video description down below, and I'll try to get to your request as soon as I possibly can. Now, The Girl Next Door is directed by Luke Greenfield, who prior to this, he started out his career with the awful comedy The Animal, starring Rob Schneider. So he started out on the worst possible foot, if you ask me. But his direction here and his sophomore effort is really solid. I thought he did a really good job directing this. It's a movie that is very lively when it comes to the overall vitality of the film in terms of certain scenes. It's a film that has a lot of uh, comedic moments in it that definitely maintain that same sense of energy throughout. He really does maintain a pretty consistent visual tone as well, and really does find a consistent way to really establish a certain feeling or a certain vibe for a scene when it comes to how he frames his shots or sets them up in general. So, a scene that's supposed to be more comedic has the right visual setup and perspective to it, as well as scenes that were trying to be a little more emotional, a little slower, and not so fast paced, and not so hectic and frenzied in nature. So the scenes that are supposed to be a little more romantic actually do have a genuine feel of romance to them, as well as a good amount of heart. And you could definitely feel the passion behind the camera. And it's not the most risky or ambitious film when it comes to panning shots or tracking shots, but there's still a fair amount of those throughout the movie. And he uses different camera angles at points. And it's not a film that is visually dull. Like, it looks good. It actually looks great on more than one occasion. Like, it genuinely paints a lot of the film's characters in a pretty positive light in terms of the way that they're shot. And it's a film that, yeah, it's a raunchy teen sex comedy, but this isn't what I would consider a film that features lazy directing. There's even some inspired and good usage of slow-mo at points that actually emphasize a scene and aren't just there for shock value or to make a scene more raunchy or to just try to squeeze some laughs out of a scene with a bunch of random slow mo. So yeah, I genuinely feel that Greenfield did a good job directing the movie. And a big part of why the film actually turns out as good as it ultimately does, I think, is due to him. But, it didn't really do that great financially when it came out. Like, it made a little bit of a profit, but not that much. Critics were very mixed on it. And so it didn't really do that much for his career. He didn't direct another film for like 7 years until a rom com. And then he directed Let's Be Cops, which is another film that I actually don't mind. and then it was just pretty much nothing. Like he I guess he's directing a movie with Kevin James called Playdate, but other than that, like he hasn't really had that much of a um upward trajectory when it comes to his career. And I've seen much worse directors when it comes to comedies in particular than Greenfield. So it's a shame that this wasn't like a breakthrough hit because I think it would have definitely led to him directing more teen coming of age movies or just more movies in general. And I think he probably would have been up to the task of handling a various amount of projects. I would say out of all of his films, this is his best. This is his finest effort as a director. Now, the screenplay is by a bunch of different people, including Luke Greenfield, who's uncredited, as well as Chris McKenna. But the people that are listed on the production credits is Stuart Blumberg, David T. Wagner, and Brent Goldberg. And despite there being so many writers, this does not really seem like a script that feels like it's got too many cooks in the kitchen. It actually feels like their vision is shared and they're not really competing with one another. It seems like a lot of the contributions, writing wise, fit with either the tone of the story or they definitely have their place. They're not something that's out of order or distracting when it comes to the way that they're inserted into the story. Right from the beginning, the script, in my opinion, is really unique and interesting because it starts out like a typical high school movie where you have your lead, who is this young man named Matthew Kidman, and he's brainstorming on what to write about his high school years because he's trying to write a paragraph for the yearbook where he says, you know, I remember. And he's struggling, but everyone else around him is easily able to come up all these great times and memories that they had during high school. And so you actually see their perspective, you hear their narration or reading their paragraphs, and then you cut to Matthew and he can't think of anything. Or what he is thinking of is a fantasy or just something that hasn't even happened yet, which is him winning some scholarship to Georgetown. And I really liked that opening for the film. Even the very opening shot, which is this very provocative shot of this woman up close with her, you know, just really just zoomed in on her lips. And you're thinking it's gonna be like a porno shoot or something because it's a movie that features a porn star, but no, it's just a shoot for a high school, photograph, you know, for the yearbook, and then it cuts to all the people talking about their high school, years and what they remember, and then it ultimately, leads to the introduction of your lead character and Matthew Kidman. And this is definitely something that really does show the roots of what it initially was, which was a remake of Risky Business. But then they decided to retool things and make it its own film, and I really feel that was the right choice. Because if it was just a remake, I don't think it would be as good. Because then the people talking about it being a knockoff of Risky Business would be even more upset at the movie because it literally would have been, because it would have been a remake. But here it's still able, in my opinion, to find its own footing. And a big part of why this script, in my opinion, works so well is two things. For one, I think it's really clever. I think it's really witty. I think there's a lot of fantasy scenes and like daydream sequences that are spliced throughout the story that really wind up surprising you, and they are genuinely well written. It starts out from the beginning. with Matthew daydreaming about what he's going to write about high school, and then having nothing to put on the page. And then it continues throughout the film where he will think about a certain scenario that occurs, where he's trying to sneak away to the beach and follow the popular kids and skip class because he just wants to do something spontaneous and wants to break away from the monotony of what he's been doing for all these years in high school. And then he envisions what that would be like, and it winds up becoming traumatic and horrifying because he actually witnesses a fatal car accident, and he he is almost busted by the school police for sneaking away. And then you realize it was just something that he envisioned in his head while he's sitting there in the car contemplating about going and skipping school. And when he ultimately does start to form this bond and this relationship with the girl next door, who is this woman named Danielle, who turns out to be a porn star. Now he's having these nightmare scenarios that he's envisioning in his head when he's seeing his girlfriend visiting his parents. So he's thinking about his girlfriend in the context of her being in a porno with his parents. And so there's a lot of moments like that throughout the movie that intercut these really clever, really witty uh, daydream sequences, and it's really a lot of fun. Now, the other thing that I feel makes this script as good as it is honestly just simply the heart. It has a really big heart to it, and it goes a long way because it makes the romance between Danielle and Matthew into something that's genuinely sweet and charming when it easily could have been a little skeevy and a little weird if it was presented in a different way. Instead, it comes across as authentic, and it's honestly one of the better romances that I've seen when it comes to the writing involving two characters that are considered to be very much an unlikely couple. I think a good part of that is because due to the heart of the story being these two and their connection with one another, it really leads to a lot of moments that have some real genuine impact when it comes to their growth as characters and how the two of them together make themselves better people. And I really like that about the script. Yes, there are a lot of raunchy stuff. There's a lot of raunchy porn comedy in this, but it's a movie about a porn star, so that's to be expected. But it's not written in a tasteless way. It's not written like Bucky Larson, Born to Be a Star, for instance. It's not written like that. So there's more tasteful writing when it comes to these characters and this world, despite it being very much something that is very raunchy in nature. In particular, with the character of Danielle, despite her being a porno actress, you don't really see a lot of full frontal nudity or a lot of her showing herself in that way. Uh, it's actually very tasteful and very and honestly kind of reserved. The moments when you see her in that light are like from the old porno she was in, or from fantasies or night or daymares that Matthew is having. It's not actually something you see in the film itself. And I think the comedy at points, it'll definitely make you laugh out loud, but it's not a movie that's like laugh out loud hilarious throughout. So I definitely think that's an element of the script that could have been a bit better, could have been a bit funnier. But I think the story, the love story in particular, is strong enough, and so is the coming of age elements in terms of Matthew learning to just go with the flow, learning to take risks, learning to go out there and do things and go outside of his comfort zone, and problem solve and think on his feet in terms of how to get out of a situation. I feel that that's something that really is a really strong suit and a strong element of this script. And that ties into the characterization. I think the characters are really well written and have a surprising amount of depth. Matthew is a character who I really related to because I was definitely in that boat. So part of an outcast circle of friends in high school. I wanted more, wanted to do more, but I didn't have the guts, didn't have the balls to do it. Sadly, I never really took the kind of chances that Matthew ultimately took in this movie, but in a lot of ways, I wish I did. So it's kind of like a little bit of a wish fulfillment kind of thing where I get to see what could happen if I did decide to take more chances during my senior year of high school. I really like his arc. How he starts out as a guy who doesn't want to take any risks, who just kind of wants to um, go with the flow. Well, not go with the flow. Like he just wants to stick with a certain schedule, a certain thing, and then he initially, due to meeting this girl, starts to become more spontaneous and starts to actually do more than just the regular status quo. And I love how that leads to him not only finding that there's more within himself, but also bringing more out of the woman that he ultimately falls in love with in Danielle. And I really love how he outsmarts Kelly in the end, where you think, oh, he's shooting a porno at the prom, but it's just a sex ed video. I thought that was really clever. Now, another character that's very well fleshed out and very well written is Danielle herself. This is a really interesting, complex character, despite her being just the girl next door who happens to be a porn star. She's actually somebody who feels a little ashamed of being a part of that industry. She really wants to do more with her life than just be a porn star. But in a similar way to her boyfriend Matthew, she just doesn't really necessarily want to take that risk because she's afraid of what might happen if she decides to completely go into a different direction with her life. She also is somebody that easily kind of falls into her old habits, and because of a really awkward night with Danielle and Matthew at a motel when Matthew is not acting like himself and is basically trying to position her for sex, she goes back to the porn industry, and you could tell that she's not happy with that. She's basically dying inside. And Matthew realizes that he did the wrong thing and actually goes and gets her out of that. And that makes them even closer, and it ultimately really is a driving factor into why Danielle uh ultimately completes her arc as a character and grows as a person when it comes to the way that her arc carries on throughout the story. So I really like that she's not just a dumb bimbo character. I like that there's more to her. I like that there's a lot more nuance to her. And it just makes for a genuinely compelling character. Another interesting character is Timothy Oliphant's character, Kelly, who is Danielle's former manager. And he's smarmy, he's sleazy, he's a con artist, he's a guy that is definitely somebody you shouldn't trust. but he's also a guy who, despite all the shady and shitty things that he does, there are honestly some things that he winds up teaching Matthew that actually benefit him and benefit his journey and his life. And I like that. I like that. Yeah, he's in a lot of ways the antagonist, but he's still somebody who brings about some positive change for our characters. And he's a driving force in that regard because it's one of those things where yeah, he's definitely an antagonist and definitely not the best guy, but who says that you can only learn lessons from good people? Who says that you can only learn lessons from people in your life that are on your side? So I like that a lot. And it's another thing that really added some intriguing added depth to this script and to this overall story. And then you have Matthew's friends, the other two legs of the tripod, Eli and Klitz. And I think the way that they're written is also very good in terms of their dynamic with Matthew and their overall importance in the plot and how they tie into things. And I like how they have completed arcs as well. Like throughout the entire film, throughout the experiences that they have with Matthew and Danielle and the porn industry, they wind up gaining extra confidence in themselves. And Eli's case, he winds up getting a new career, and it's definitely something to me that really shows that this is actually a pretty good script because even the side characters have defined arcs. And you have some other characters that are also popping in and out, like Hugo Posh, who's this competing porn manager who Matthew eventually makes a deal with to make the sex ed film. You've got different, uh, classmates, like the bullies, the jocks, and so on and so forth, who uh, get tricked into being into the sex ed movie, thinking that they're going to be in a porno with porn stars, but it's just a sex ed film. You have like the principal. You have this Asian kid named Sam Nang, who Matthew and the school are raising money to get him to come to the school to learn there. You've got Matthew's parents, Mr. and Mrs. Kidman, uh, and you have like a few other characters, but that's really honestly the main cast. That's the main uh, group of characters, and I genuinely do feel it's a well written script when it comes to the characters and their interactions with one another and their importance to the overall plot. And I do feel it does have some nice dialogue at points as well. And there really aren't any moments in it where it lost my interest. It lost me when it comes to like a massive tonal shift, or it wound up somehow not being compelling. Like, I was honestly really compelled throughout. I wanted to see these characters find a way to get out of the situation that they were in. I wanted to find definitely a path for Matthew and Danielle to be together, and wanted to find him one upping Kelly in the end. And ultimately, you get all of that. And it really does honestly make the juice worth the squeeze, to quote the film. I know that it's gotten a lot of criticism from people saying that it's got conflicted messages. I don't agree with that. I think the message is very clear with this movie. I don't think it's conflicting at all. I know some people pointed out it's kind of creepy. Not if you realize that Danielle was around the same age as the lead. Like she's maybe like a year or two older than he is. So it's not that much of a difference in terms of the age gap. So because of that, I don't think it's as creepy as some people are making it out to be. Because it's not like she's some 25-year-old, 30-year-old porn star who is deciding to fall in love with this high school kid. They're pretty much, very much, the same age, so I don't really feel that it's the same kinda thing. Um, and a lot of the references to Risky Business, I actually think are fine, I think they work, and I know a lot of people pointed out how it's inferior to something like American Pie. Honestly, I think it's better than American Pie. That's just me personally, but I really feel it's a better movie when it comes to its plot, when it comes to its characters, and when it comes to its message than American Pie. So I don't think that it's inferior to American Pie at all. I think it bakes a better pie than American Pie did. Now, the film also features, in my opinion, a really good cast of very capable actors and actresses. The two leads are definitely what really make the film, though. Emile Hirsch and Elisha Cuthbert are a really cute couple. They're very charming together. They have excellent chemistry, and they do a great job really bringing their characters to life when it comes to all the different nuances, the different layers, and the different aspects of these characters, especially Elijah Cuthbert, because not only was she drop dead gorgeous in this, but she was also really funny, and she was also able to really showcase some genuine emotions, and the scene when she's upset at Matthew for misleading her at the motel, it's actually some really good acting by her. And so it's not just a sex pot kind of role. There's a lot more to it, and I think she really nailed it. And I love Timothy Olyphant as Kelly. This is honestly, in my opinion, his best role that I've seen when it comes to him being in a movie because he's able to actually act outside of what he normally does and play a more over the top, a wild, spiky haired, villainous character, and I think it honestly seems like he's at his best when he's not playing things so straight as an actor, because there's just so much more energy here with this performance than with a lot of other things that I've seen him do. And James Remar had a nice cameo as Hugo Posh. Chris Marquette and Paul Dano, they were also, in my opinion, pretty good as Eli and Tim, Brooks and Klitz, Matthew's best friends. You definitely bought that they were friends with Emile Hirsch. Like the three of them, they really did fit very well together in terms of their different personalities. And Timothy Bottoms, Donna Bullock, Richard Fancy, they were good when it comes to their roles in the film as Mr. and Mrs. Kidman and Mr. Peterson. And you had some other actors and actresses that were fine, like Autumn Reeser and Olivia Wilde and Amanda Swiston as Jane, Kelly, and April. The other porn stars, or Harris Lascaux as Principal Salinger. So, in my opinion, it's definitely a cast that really does work well together. And when it comes to the main performers, Emile Hirsch, Elijah Cuthbert, Timothy Olyphant, Chris Marquette, and Paul Dano, uh, they all deliver really consistently uh, great performances. The film also features some decent cinematography by Jamie Anderson for a teen comedy. The editing by Mark Lavolsi I thought was amazing. A big part of why the daydream and daymare and fantasy sequences are so unexpected and so surprising the first time around and so engaging is because of how they're edited into the film. And it's also the same thing when it comes to other moments throughout the movie in terms of their effectiveness. I really feel the editing just elevates a lot of those scenes um, so much. And the music by Paul Haslinger, I really liked. He's a member of Tangerine Dream who did the score for Risky Business. So when you have that scene when Matthew first sees the girl next door, it sounds like something from Risky Business, and that's because it's from one of the same composers who worked with Tangerine Dream for the score for that film. And I felt this was another solid score by him. And since I'm talking about music for the film, might as well talk about the soundtrack, which I thought was genuinely stellar. I think this is a really great playlist of tracks and songs that are honestly another reason why I really enjoyed this movie, because it definitely added to the overall good vibes of the film and just made a lot of the scenes that these songs were featured in so much stronger because of the addition of these songs. So definitely got to give a huge shout out to the soundtrack for this film. Honestly, I would recommend this if you like teen comedies, if you like rom coms. Definitely give this a watch sometime. But anyway, thanks for watching my review of The Girl Next Door, and until next time, I'll see you later. See ya.